I actually just saw the jury leave, so it looks like no verdict will be given tonight. They'll be back here again tomorrow morning to pick back up where they left off again. Now, to answer your question, if the jury finds David Ray Taylor guilty of aggravated murder, he could face the death penalty. Now, if you look behind me, these police officers arrived at this house just after midnight last night, and they are still here investigating. Now, police say they are still trying to piece together exactly what happened. What we do know is, sadly, a mother of three is fighting for her life. Prosecution is calling this murder a cowardly attack. Police are describing what happened here Monday night as a bizarre and frightening event. Tom Larson with the City of Eugene says the cluster of intersections on River Road near Beltline are some of the busiest intersections in the city. Tim says even if Judge McShane does not rule in the same-sex couple's favor, he's hopeful that come November, voters will. In that moment, Nancy Frederickson says she was terrified, but says now she can find humor in the fact that those teens didn't get away with their car. It all started here, but Junction City police say it ended in Cresswell, where they now have a person of interest. Trans fats used to be seen in a variety of foods. For example, the popular pigs in a blanket. It has approximately 2.5 grams of trans fat, but some are saying you can have tasty food without the health risk. It's one of those moments that people across the Northwest remember vividly, what they were doing the day Mount St. Helens erupted. The prosecution told jurors that it was Taylor who was the ringleader.
We never dreamed that she was drugging him to keep him asleep, and it never crossed our minds.
3-year-old Colton and 5-year-old Evie were being looked after as their mother worked. Their grandmother, Debbie Thompson, says she noticed Colton was acting different, but didn't think much of it.
He kept coming home sleepy, and we thought that she was a young sitter, and she was taking him for walks and taking him to the park and all that good stuff.
But their mother says she soon discovered they were wrong. Brittany happened to get off work early, so she headed to the sitter's house. She says when she got there, both kids were laying on the couch.
There was just something very wrong with them. They both were very lethargic and tired.
She took the kids home, and on the way, the car was silent.
I asked Evie, I said, Evie, what's the matter? And she goes, well, the babysitter gave me some candy to help me fall asleep.
According to Brittany, it was then Evie nodded off and wouldn't wake up.
My son fell asleep seconds later, and I was scared.
So she called the sitter to find out what the so-called candy she was giving her kids actually was.
And I asked her what she had done. She said, well, I gave the kids a melatonin.
Melatonin is an herbal sleep aid, but it's not clear how many milligrams the kids were given or how many pills. Brittany filed a police report with Sweet Home Police, but because melatonin is not a controlled substance, they say no crime has been committed. Jeff Lynn, the chief of police, says they contacted the district attorney's office and a pediatrician who handles child abuse cases.
That physician had indicated it was an appropriate dose, and that that physician has even recommended it to parents in the past.
According to Lynn, the babysitter is a minor, just 17, and he doesn't believe there was any criminal intent. But what about calling it candy? Colton's grandma says every time he sees something like this, he calls it candy. So I decided to ask him. What is this?
My medicine.
Your medicine?
That candy.
It's candy?
Yeah, I have one.
Brittany and Debbie say there needs to be consequences for giving kids pills without the parents' permission, whether it's a controlled substance or not. It's the middle of the night in a quiet neighborhood in West Eugene when suddenly a horror film comes to life.
I started hearing screaming, and at first I thought it was a cat fight or something, and then I could hear "help me."
Tina Fluent says 2 o'clock Monday morning she woke up to a nightmare.
I looked out my bedroom window, and the neighbor lady was in the driveway, and there was a guy beating on her, and she was screaming, "Help me, he's going to kill me."
The victim, 50-year-old Alita Nicholson, says she was fast asleep in her bed, just like every other night. Her husband, a night shift worker, had no idea that when he left for work Sunday night, he'd be coming home to blood spattered on the driveway and his wife looking like this.
You could hear her head hit. It was horrible.
Alita tells me the man, who she had never seen before, broke the window on the back door. She says their internal alarm system went off, but without a word, she says he grabbed a butter knife and started stabbing her. When he went for the steak knives, Alita says she took off to the garage and ran out. But Alita says he caught up to her and began hitting her head on the cement. Neighbors heard her cries And that's when Tina's husband came to Alita's rescue and held the man down until police arrived.
The police came and they just handcuffed him. And he just had a blank stare as they handcuffed him.
Police arrested 20-year-old Tyler Kowalchuk for attempted murder, kidnap, and strangulation.
He looked like just a child. It's sad.
By default, they have become, inpatient psychiatric facilities.
Almost every day of the month we'll have at least one inmate, if not more, in here that's suffering from mental illness.
Rubiego says mentally ill individuals cause a problem in the community, so officers take them in, where they sit and wait for a mental health evaluation. If the doctor decides the offender cannot understand the charges against them, the inmates become patients and get sent to the state hospital. Rubiego says the whole process can take between 6 to 8 weeks or longer.
We've had individuals sit here for 4 months before on a disorderly conduct charge, waiting to go through this process and then find out at the end of the 4 months, yep, they need to go to the state hospital. So they go back up there. They're up there for 4 weeks. State hospital says, okay, they're a little better now. They can aid and assist. They come back down here, charge gets dismissed, and they get out.
Out, likely without any further mental health treatment. So chances are they'll end up back in handcuffs all over again. But not every offender even makes it to the state hospital. Rubiego says it's a never-ending cycle. For example, a 26-year-old male was arrested over 10 times last year. He spent almost 300 days in jail, and today he's still not receiving the treatment he needs. While the inmate sits behind bars, Rubiego says they're locked into a system where they get very little treatment.
Generally not any continuity of medications because they come in, off the street or they've been plucked from their homes. They're incapable of stating what meds they're on and what their behavioral health needs are.
That's assuming the person is aware of their mental illness. Nikki Kelly, the corrections nurse at the Benton County Jail, says even if the inmate knows what medication they take and the jail has it, the subject can and usually does refuse to take it, leaving themselves and law enforcement at risk.
They're hallucinating, they're hearing things, they're seeing things, voices telling them to do things, voices telling them to harm themselves, to harm others. They'll play with the food, they'll play with other things such as their own feces, they'll paint, they'll draw. In extreme situations, they'll even eat it.
Why is this happening? Both Lane County Behavioral Health and Benton County Sheriff's Office say it's a number of things. Lack of resources, lack of funding, lack of collaboration. Schneider says she hopes that will change now that local law enforcement and other agencies are working closer together than ever before.
It's our goal to divert people from jail when, we believe that symptoms of their mental illness were the driver of committing a crime.
We had a little bit of everything for someone this weekend. On Saturday we had dry weather, some sunshine, and then today obviously a completely different story. That upper level low I told you was moving on in. It is here. 2 measures for the legalization of recreational marijuana will not make it on the November ballot. Marijuana legalization advocate Paul Stanford has all but snuffed out his effort to put the measures to Oregon voters. Now, what many of these drivers are thinking right now is they just want to get home. It's not every day that it happens. The last time was over a decade ago. Police are turning to the public tonight, asking you to keep an eye out for a teenage girl from Washington County who may be the victim of sex trafficking. You may be killing bees without even knowing it. At least that's what a report released today by Friends of the Earth is saying. In tonight's top story, dangerous chemicals known as neonicotinoids could be lurking in your backyard. Live at the University of Oregon, I'm Kelsey Dudley for News Source 16.